I knew God was gonna move, but I had no idea the scale that he was gonna do it. And it all started with just the few in the beginning that said yes. It was a huge step of faith. The biggest thing we're worried about is that no one would show up.
There was a period where it started growing, but then it kind of just stayed that same amount of people. We realized that there was a lot of people that weren't going to clubs at all. I was talking to Pastor Ben and Kayla, and we're like, how can we grow this thing? Like, how can we not just let it stay here?
Like, there's so many people that are out there, but if you think about it, it's like no one's gonna walk into a club where they don't know anyone. Like, I wouldn't do that.
We're like, let's just bring it out where, you know, we gotta be bold. It's not gonna be comfortable, but we're just gonna bring it to where the people are.
So the heart behind Jesus Takeover was like, if you won't come to us, we'll go to you.
It's kind of just like all of a sudden, like, we're gonna do this.
I think the biggest thing we're worried about is that no one would show up and we would be preaching to 5 people who already go to our church.
But you never know what can happen. I think it's that fear of like not knowing what could happen. But I think that's also the beauty of it, that we're like, oh my gosh, we get to step into something that we get to really believe in faith for, that only God knows what will happen because he's in the future, he's already prepared for it.
And from there, it was just building, it was brainstorming, it was really finding our passion and our heart for the school. If we were to leave, what would we want to leave the school with?
Shifting the perspective from like, oh, well, how is it, like, it could go wrong, then to being like, oh my gosh, imagine what could happen and what could go right.
So, Jesus Takeover, it was just like a bunch of us. We literally ran out of class right when the bell rang, and we all met up and we're like, okay, we're gonna do this.
A lot of people walk around eating their lunch because they don't want to sit down or there's no place to sit down. And so they walk by and they're like, oh, what's this? Why is there a big group huddled?
And there was kind of like this tension, this awkward tension where it's like, do I raise my hands? Do I not? Like, I don't really know how to go about this. Like, my friends are right there. It was in those moments where I was like, wow, this is like so uncomfortable. This is so awkward. Like, oh, I don't know. Everyone's looking at me. Everyone's judging me. But I think it was in those moments where we had to push through that, where we had to continue to be bold, because it's like, if we won't do it, we can't expect other people to do it. Getting encountered at school, even if they didn't expect it.
It's beautiful to see that someone can go from spectating to participating in such a small amount of time too. I think God really met us in the midst of our struggle.
In broad daylight, in front of their whole school, in front of their friends that may not believe in Jesus, people like take notice of that and they're like, wow, like something's different.
And so for some people, this was like one in a lifetime, and they really got to like break through.
I knew God was gonna move, but I had no idea the scale that he was gonna do it.
It's not just like a Bible study. We're gonna actually pray, and then we're gonna use that and use that boldness that we're praying for.
And it all started with just the few in the beginning that said yes. And that was just, oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry.